Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm Kris, or welcome. This is part 3 about Hamza. It's coming up on the second. I took a break, so I already forgot. But I went back 5 seconds. It's the second. I don't remember now. I got so many things going on. I'm gonna burp. All right, I'm back. Okay, it's been one of those days, and I chugged a beer, and it is kicking in, so I might be a little chatty, a little talkative on this version, this video. But before we get started, there's a thanks button on the channel. You can donate, subscribe if you'd like to, and if you would like to contact me directly with any kind of inquiry, you just hit that thumbs up button and I'll get notified of whatever it is that you need. On a side note, I have solar panels on my roof, for those of you who know, and the company that installed them apparently closed their doors nationwide a couple of weeks ago. Didn't tell anyone. So they were trying to. I have a rebate from the state for $16,000, and that has to go towards the loan that I have. And they tried everything they could to stop me from getting that money, and I got that money, and like a month later, they went under. So I got extremely lucky, because if I didn't get that money, they go under. I gotta take them to court. There are people that paid to have the service, and they just dipped out on them. And those people, they have to get a new company to provide the service, and they also have to try to get money back, because this new company isn't just going to do it for free. It's fortunately, I've had my panels for since March of 2023, so over a year, and I've been paying for the service since August of last year. And I'm pretty much like I'm not in a bad situation. I'm better than probably 70% of the people right now. But my issue is that per the contract that I signed with Titan, that's the company, they are responsible for any and all repairs and warranty on my services. So I might have to wait to see what happens, because there's going to be a lot of lawsuits, because they're a big nationwide company. And so I might have to wait, see what happens, and then I might have to get in on any kind of class action lawsuit for any kind of money that I can get, that not that I would personally get, but like into some account where it would guarantee that if anything happened, my panels could be repaired, or at no cost to me. And I just got this email, and they closed apparently like 2.5, maybe 3 weeks ago, and they confirmed the closing, but they didn't announce it. They just closed. And so now all these people are left in the lurch trying to figure out what's happening. And the company that ended up getting, the company that gave me the money is called Illinois Shine. And Illinois Shine had to approve my $16,000 rebate from the state. And then they sent the money to Titan. Titan sent the money to Goodleap, which is my finance company that I'm getting a loan through. Goodleap sends it to me. I then send it back to Goodleap. Illinois bureaucrats at it's bureaucrats, period, at its best. Makes no sense. Titan got the money because my dad died. The house was his, but the bill was in my name. So they were fighting. Well, we can't send it to you. Well, I'm the one who's paying the bill, so you better send it to me. My name's on the contract. Ooh, yeah, no, we're going to need to see the deed to the house. Well, you can't. Like, you should have asked for that before, but there's a loan that has that, and I'm paying off that loan. I've got to pay that loan off. And they're like, oh, yeah, no, we can't. Well, they were doing everything they could to not give me that money so that they could keep it, and then end up going under. So I'm very fortunate that I am ahead of all that, just by about a month. I'm ahead of all that closing. And Titan confirmed that they did close, and that they've just completely went silent. And no one can get a hold of them. All these other companies are trying to get a hold of them. It's just, I got to burp again. All right. So it's just been like, it was a busy day, and then I've got that to deal with. It's just been one of those days. So I chugged a beer. But fortunately, I'm a little ahead, but... All right, so that was my little rant. I do apologize. Let's just get into the video now.
And they came back to Al-Madinah. A second time was Al-Abwa. And this time in Al-Abwa, the Prophet ﷺ himself went out, by the way, in this expedition, which is significant because the first one the Prophet ﷺ went out in, but guess who the general was and holding the flag? Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu. So his position is very clear as the lead in all of these situations, right? So Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu leads. However, there was no actual battle that would take place in Al-Abwa. However, the expedition went out to Al-Abwa. Now comes the Battle of Badr. So what did it look like to see Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu in war? Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu, you can imagine, he wanted to fight the Meccans way before this. He was ready. And Hamza radiallahu anhu had this feather from an ostrich. He hunted these exotic animals, right? So people that keep their souvenirs, right? The different animals. I'm not saying there was a deer head in the home of Hamza radiallahu anhu or something like that. I know in Texas this is very appealing to some of you, okay? But Hamza radiallahu anhu had this exotic feather of an ostrich, and he put it on his chest. He pinned it sometimes to his helmet, sometimes to his chest. And what it signified was, if anyone wants to battle, come fight me. Like, when you're in battle, you're wearing pretty much the same thing. You're trying to kind of hide yourself amongst the ranks. Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu, to him it was, come at me. Right? I want to fight, and I'm not hiding from you. And this was a sign, they said, of his shuja'ah, of his courage, that he would wear something so distinctive and hold himself out before battle. Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu was also one of those who could fight with two swords. Now, if you carry the swords of those people, for us these days, it's like to carry one of them takes two hands and you fall. Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu could wield both swords in battle. And this was one of his skills, that he could fight with two swords in one battle. And he had, control with both of his arms. So they go out to the Battle of Badr. Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu, the first general of Islam, carrying the flag. Clearly, the Prophet ﷺ is organizing the army in a way that Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu is the lead. And before the battle started, there was a name by the name of Al-Aswad ibn Abdul Asad. And he was from the tribe of Abu Jahl. He's from the other side, Al-Aswad ibn Abdul Asad. And he swore that he was going to walk right through the Muslims and he was going to drink from the well of Badr. Arrogant man from the tribe of Makhzum, from Abu Jahl's tribe, as a means of taunting the Muslims, because the Muslims had occupied the wells of Badr. Now realize, the Muslims were not expecting the large army that was coming in Badr. Badr was not looking good for them. They didn't have the animals of war, they didn't have their proper weapons, they really were not ready, but they knew that this huge army was coming to get them, with all of their animals, with all of their weapons. So they occupied the wells of Badr strategically, right? Al-Aswad ibn Abdul Asad said, I'm going to go and drink from the well of the Muslims, or I'll destroy it, or I'll die for it. So I'm going to plow right through them, and I'm going to go ahead and drink from their well to taunt them, because no one's going to fight me. He was wrong. Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu, immediately when he came through, he came out in front of him, he sliced his legs and he killed him. So this is actually the first man to die in the Battle of Badr, and Hamza radiallahu anhu was not scared of him at all, right? Threw him back like whatever. we are not intimidated, we're not afraid of you. So Hamza radiallahu anhu was the first to strike on the day of Al-Badr. At that point, Utbah bin Rabi'ah, he comes out, and he has his brother Shayba, of course, and they call out, and they say, send us three that are going to fight us. Okay, send us your three best men. Three of the Ansar came out to fight them, to duel before the battle. And he said, of course, referring to himself, Utbah, Shayba, and Tu'ayma ibn Adi, he said, you know what? These three men are not equivalent to us. Send us some more noble people. Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu comes out, Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and Ubaidah ibn al-Harith. And Utbah says, he calls out and he says, who are you? And this was Hamza himself who responded, and he said, I am the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, Asadullah wa Rasulihi. I am the lion of Allah and His Messenger. In battle these things are permissible, right? People show their strength in battle and before their duels. This is permissible. So Hamza radiallahu anhu says, I am the lion of Allah and the lion of His Messenger. And Utbah, he says, a noble and worthy opponent. I can fight you. At least they didn't send three other people, so they're sending their best from the very beginning, which shows that they're serious about this battle. Of course, Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu kills him. Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu kills Shayba. Ubaidah ibn al-Harith kills Tu'ayma, but at the same time, Ubaidah ibn al-Harith was wounded and he would die later on as a result of that battle. I'm sorry, Al-Walid ibn Utbah. I was trying to think about who the third person was, so it was Al-Walid ibn Utbah who was fighting. So anyway, the Battle of Badr then ensues. We know that Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu was extremely brave, and the Battle of Badr was, of course, a decisive victory for the Muslims. And of course, they derived a confidence after seeing these three men fight and duel with the other three prior to the battle even starting. However, this made Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu a key person, a key target for whatever battle was going to come after Badr. When the people got back to Mecca and they had lost some of their elders, Abu Jahl, Utbah, right? Umayyah, these huge names amongst the mushrikeen, amongst the disbelievers, died in the battle of Badr. The poetry that would come out of Mecca, the environment of Mecca, the widows and the daughters and the sons, and the way that people were fuming in Mecca to get revenge from the Muslims for their casualties in the Battle of Badr. And if you think about this, subhanAllah, these people, they didn't have akhirah. They didn't have any notion of the hereafter. They didn't have any notion of shahada or martyrdom or anything like that, right? So this was all that they had, was their pride. And this was a huge blow to their ego. Everything we persecuted the Muslims for all 13 years, and then we lost our leaders, our heads in this Battle of Badr where we were supposed to rout them. And this, of course, is especially with Hind bint Utbah, who was killed by Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Hind bint Utbah was fantasizing about what she would do to Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu. The body, the way she would mutilate his body, all of the harm that she would commit. She was talking about it. She was authoring lines of poetry to the point that it became an obsession for her to get revenge on Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu for what he had done to her father, Utbah. And you have to know that with the Battle of Uhud, they didn't just come out with their larger army and their more prepared cavalry and what they were brewing inside of them of hatred and the desire for vengeance and revenge. They also came with the womenfolk of Mecca. And so the wives, the widows, the daughters came forth. So Hind comes out, the wife of Ikramah bin Abi Jahl, Fatima bint Walid, the daughter of Abu Mas'ud al-Thaqafi, the wife of Amr bin al-As, the mother of Mus'ab ibn Umayr. All these enemies, right? The womenfolk came out too, and they had these lines of poetry. They were singing all of these verses about vengeance, right? And they even had extra animals with the wine because they wanted to celebrate over the corpses of the Muslims. So they're coming back to Medina actually for Uhud with a vengeance, and particularly they wanted to really mutilate the Muslims. They didn't just want to defeat them.
Did any of them sing the good old insult or diss of UGLY, you ain't got no alibi, you ugly. They used to sing that when I played football, American football. The cheerleaders would say that, would do that song to the other cheerleaders.
They wanted to mutilate them after the defeat. So the Battle of Uhud starts to take place. In the beginning of the battle, I know that some of you might, we all know the death of Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu in the Battle of Uhud, right? But what
I don't. Spoiler. This guy.
What you probably don't know is that before he died, he actually killed many of the enemy. Okay, so when the battle first started, one of the people that he killed was a man by the name of Suba' bint Abdul Uzza. Suba' bint Abdul Uzza, who was considered one of the strongest of Quraysh. Hamza radiallahu anhu killed him with 2 blows. And the narrations mention that up to 2/3 of the casualties on the other side on the day of Uhud were from the hands of Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu. SubhanAllah, what a way to go out. Right? Up to 30 or 31 people Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu would kill before he was killed by the spear of Wahshi. So Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu comes out, and Hamza radiallahu anhu does what Hamza does. And of course we know that in Uhud, the Muslims had the upper hand, they had the victory. So how did he die? Wahshi bin Harb, of course, was a slave of Jubair ibn Mut'im. And Jubair freed him on the condition that he would kill Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and Hind offered him a specific compensation for the murder of Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu, to kill him and to cut out his liver so that Hind could chew it and spit it out. They wanted to make an example out of Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Wahshi described the moment. And the Abyssinians particularly were known for their spear play. Right? Actually, subhanAllah, even when you look at the narrations about Eid, when Aisha radiallahu anha and the Prophet ﷺ would watch the Abyssinian Muslims, they had the spears that they would practice with. And so Wahshi was a specialist with his spear, and he had a particular spear that he was known to really use very well. Wahshi described the moment. He said that I went out on the day of Uhud and I hid behind this boulder. And I wasn't involved in the rest of the battle. I literally just kept my eyes on Hamza and I waited for something to be exposed of him. I waited for the first moment where I could kill him. And subhanAllah, he says that I saw him roaring like a lion through the battle and demolishing the enemy. He said until after he killed Ibn Abdul Uzza, who we talked about, he said that his armor was raised just a little bit to where some of his lower abdomen was exposed. So I said, there's my opportunity. So Wahshi said, I looked at him and then I pinpointed him and then I threw my spear at him and it went right through his body, through his lower abdomen. So it actually went through him. And he says Hamza was so strong, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, that he got up and he still pursued me even as the spear was through his body. SubhanAllah, he was still able to pick up his sword.
If I chuck a spear through you and you start coming at me, you're never going to catch me because I'm running away going, no, that man's a demon. I'm not fighting that man. That man took a spear through the gut. And now I've made him mad. He wasn't mad before when he was 2 swords and decapitating people. No. That was just Tuesday. Now he's angry. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to run. I'm going to run fast. That man has my spear, by the way. So I'm going to need that back. But until you just keep it for right now, because it seems to be holding everything in place. So I'll be back for that whenever you feel like you want to die. But until then, I'm going to run fast. And I'm going to ask you not to follow me, please, sir. Because I've apparently upset you.
And come after me, even with the spear through his body, until eventually he succumbed to the wound and he passed away, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, the master of the shuhada, Sayyid.
Even if he died and I saw him fall, I would go, nope, don't believe it. That would be me.
Shuhada. Now, of course, this is a difficult thing for the Prophet ﷺ, as it is. To lose someone like Hamza is not easy. He's definitely at the chief of the casualties that would die on the day of Uhud, and of course they were a little over 70, about 72 or 73 people that died in Uhud from the Muslims, amongst them Hamza, and of course Abdullah ibn Jahsh, and Mus'ab ibn Umair, and some of the most well-known Sahaba that passed away in the day of Uhud. Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu is the chief of those martyrs, and he's the chief of all martyrs of all time. All of the shuhada will line up behind him on the day of judgment. It's hard enough to lose Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu, but of course, beyond that, after the battle was over, and because of what had taken place where the archers left their position and the Prophet ﷺ went up into the mountain of Uhud, so the battlefield itself was relinquished to them to celebrate, to claim the battlefield at that point where the Muslims had fled or they had gone up into the mountain. They then started to make an example. They started to mutilate the bodies of the shuhada. It wasn't just Hamza, by the way, but it was all of them, that they started to cut off their ears, they started to cut their noses, they started to do things to their bodies, nasty things to their bodies, celebrating with their wine, chanting their poetry, all, these horrific things that they were doing to them, right? As their moment of gloating. This is all they have is this dunya. They're sick in the heart at this point, right? Diseased people. And Hind, in particular, asks for the liver of Hamza to be cut out, where she would chew it and she would spit it out. So subhanAllah, after they had finished doing what they did to the bodies, then the Muslims come back to the battlefield. And the Prophet ﷺ goes to, of course, the body of Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And the Prophet ﷺ looks at Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and he sees the mutilation of the body of Hamza, and they mutilated him all over. Cut off his limbs, did things to him that really were a disgusting sight. And Rasulullah ﷺ looks at Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and they said that the cry of the Prophet ﷺ on that day was unlike the cry of the Prophet ﷺ on any other day. The way he wept over the body of Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu was different from any other weeping. Like, that's his uncle, that's his brother, that is someone so near and dear to his heart. But subhanAllah, even then the Prophet ﷺ immediately, what does he say? He tells Zubair, do not let Safiya see this sight. Go stop your mother from coming to see this sight. SubhanAllah, Rasulullah ﷺ knows, if I can't bear this sight, right? If this sight is hurting me so much, then Safiya, what's his sister going to do? What's my aunt going to do? So he sends Zubair radiallahu ta'ala anhu, says, go stop Safiya from seeing.
I think I've done a video on her because I remember now. I remember hearing about this. And I remember feeling terrible for her. I mean, I feel terrible for him too, and Hamza, clearly, to die. But yeah, I remember hearing about that when he's saying, don't allow her to see the body. Because I was saying, it doesn't matter what the body looks like. If that's your child, there's no stopping
that sight. Safiya is marching forward to Uhud. She's yelling at the Sahaba that fled, calling them names. She's saying, did you leave the Prophet ﷺ? Did you leave Hamza? What happened? Why did you leave them? And as she is marching and marching, as Zubair is trying to stop his mom, and she's going straight forward and she's looking for Hamza. And Zubair doesn't know what to do. And finally Zubair says, Ya Umma, oh my mother, this was an order from the Prophet ﷺ. So then she stops, right? And that's when she says what happened to Hamza, and Zubair tells Safiya radiallahu ta'ala anha that Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu has been killed. Safiya radiallahu ta'ala anha has these two clots right? She anticipated something was wrong, so she sends these 2 cloths back with the Zubair to shroud Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu. So Zubair makes his way back to the Prophet ﷺ with these 2 cloths to shroud Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And Rasulullah ﷺ is crying over the body of Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And he says, alayhi salatu wassalam, Rahimakallah ya ammah. Rahimakallah ya ammah. May Allah have mercy on you, oh my uncle. And the Prophet ﷺ starts to praise him. And the first thing he says, فَقَدْ كُنْتَ وَصُولًا الرَّحْمِ. You were always one who enjoined the ties of kinship. You brought us together. You loved your family. You brought us together. فَعُولًا لِلْخَيْرَاتِ. And someone who was always, you know, when you say fa'ul, like he's always doing khair. You were always doing good, always at the forefront of good. And Rasulullah ﷺ says, had it not been for the grief of Safiya, like if I wasn't worried about Safiya seeing your body, the Prophet ﷺ said, I would have preferred to leave you so that the birds would consume you instead, and then Allah brings you back on the Day of Judgment. Meaning, like this sight, I'd rather, this dignity of the birds taking your flesh, but Allah will gather you certainly on the Day of Judgment, but I don't want to leave you out for too long because I don't want Safiya to see what I'm seeing.
Yeah, you would rather it to be how am I trying to phrase it? You don't want to see the dismemberment that took place by another person in an act of just disrespect of that body. You would rather it that they killed him, they left him, and then nature just did its thing. Animals are going to come feed on it, because then you're kind of like, well, he died naturally, or in battle, and they at least respected it enough to leave him alone, as opposed to disrespecting the body. That's that's different. Yeah, that's too bad. I always feel sad when I hear about the people dying. But then I have to remember, this is like 1,400 years ago. They wouldn't be alive today anyways. They would have died. So I have to like chalk it up to that. Like, my dad was a month into 79 when he died. The average age for a guy is 72 or 74. So hey, he did it. His dad, my grandpa, was a month before his 80th birthday, and so he was 79, and my dad was a month after his 79th birthday. So my mom was 64. She was a month before her 65th birthday. I don't know if I've ever said this before, but if anybody wants to know some like weird thing, it's not really weird. It is. So I found my mom June 30th, 2012. It was a Saturday morning. Her mom, my Nana as we called her, died June 30th, 2007 on a Saturday morning. Both June 30th, 5 years apart, both on a Saturday. It's weird, man. My mom was a heart attack. My dad was a heart attack. My Nana, she had she didn't yawn. That wasn't it. She I think she had so she had cancer, and she was what was she, in maybe her late 70s, mid to late 70s maybe. She had breast cancer, and she had it before, and it had Alexa, shut your face. Sorry, I'm trying to give some like meaning thing, and Alexa's just like, hey, you want to know the weather? It's like, oh, shut up. she had breast cancer before, and then she got it again, and when they found it, it had spread to her rib cage, and it was pretty much a wrap. And she just decided she didn't want to fight it. She didn't want to go through the whole process, and she just, it was maybe 4 or 5 months. She pretty much just gave up. Which, hey, if I'm in that situation, I can't say. I mean, she had grandchildren, she had great-grandchildren. But I went over and paid her a visit, and her last words to me ever were, have a good life, do what you can, take care of your dog. I had a different dog. She was good. It was just vastly different. But yeah, both of them same day, 5 years apart. Both on a Saturday, same date. It was crazy. All right, well, that was nothing. I got to get back to somebody, and then uh-oh. Sorry, Muhammad Ishmael. I just got your donation, but this isn't about that. I'm gonna end the video here so I can do part 4, but it'll be out tomorrow for you. But I need another drink. It's just been a rough day. So until then, you have a good day. Have a good night.